Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a really fascinating plunge into something we all experience but maybe don't always fully understand. Our sex lives.
Yeah, it's a big topic.
It really is. We've pulled together a pretty diverse set of sources. They explore, everything from the subtle dance of seduction
Hmm.
to the nitty-gritty of sexual intelligence, flirting, those unspoken signals, even dirty talk, games, BDSM, the whole range.
It covers a lot of ground.
So whether you're listening because you want to enhance connection or maybe figure out what really gets you or your partner going,
Or just curious.
or just plain curious, yeah,
Yeah,
about all the intricacies of human sexuality, we think we've got some pretty intriguing insights for you today.
definitely. The sources really go from that initial spark, that attraction,
Right.
all the way to, the deeper bonds that can come from shared experiences.
So our mission basically is to cut through all the noise. We want to bring you the most compelling, maybe the most thought-provoking little nuggets from all this material.
Like a shortcut.
Exactly, a shortcut to understanding some key ideas. And maybe, hopefully, throw in a surprise or two. Okay, let's unpack this, shall we? Where should we start? Maybe with that delicate game of seduction and attraction.
Sounds good. One of the first things that really jumped out from the sources was this idea called the art of insinuation.
Insinuation.
Okay.
How does that work?
Well, it's actually quite clever. It suggests you can subtly make someone feel maybe a little dissatisfied, but in a way that's still, socially okay.
Dissatisfied, like you point out flaws.
No, not quite like that. It's more subtle. It could even involve surprisingly ignoring someone you're actually interested in, at least initially.
Ignoring them, that seems counterintuitive.
It does. But the thinking is, by creating a sense of something missing, like a little void, you might actually create an opportunity for yourself to, well, fill it later.
Huh. Like reverse psychology almost. You don't give them the expected attention, and that makes them wonder.
Precisely. It piques their curiosity. Then the sources talk about entering their spirit.
Entering their spirit. Sounds a bit mystical.
It does sound that way, but it's actually pretty practical. It's not just
Yeah.
about, mimicking someone. Though mirroring can help build rapport, definitely.
Right. Mirroring is a known thing.
But this is deeper. It's about genuinely trying to connect, understanding their mood, their aspirations, maybe even the ideal version of themselves they're aiming for.
Okay, really getting them.
Yes. And this is really crucial. You have to do this while keeping your own strong sense of self. You connect by understanding them, but then you let them see and connect with your world.
Okay, so you're not just reflecting them back like a mirror. You have your own stuff going on.
Exactly. Think of it like building a bridge, but making sure there's something genuinely interesting on your side that makes them want to cross over.
Got it. Makes sense. Then comes creating temptation. Sounds a bit like dangling a carrot.
That's a good way to put it. This stage is all about tapping into those maybe unrealized fantasies or secret desires the person might have. You subtly hint that those desires could become reality. But the trick here, and this is key, is to keep it a little vague and definitely delay the gratification.
Delay it. Why?
It lets their own imagination do the heavy lifting, fill in the blanks, build up that anticipation, makes it much more powerful.
Right, let them build it up in their head. Okay, so you've sparked interest, made a connection, hinted at something exciting. What's next in this seductive dance?
That brings us to the stage called lead astray.
Lead astray. Sounds a bit mischievous.
Well, by this point, the person's already quite intrigued. The goal here is to really get them hooked, get them deeply invested, maybe even pull them slightly off their usual predictable path.
Okay, so they're really drawn in now, but how do you keep that going? The sources mention keeping them in suspense. Now, I always thought being reliable was, a good thing in relationships.
Generally, yes.
Mm.
But in this specific context of seduction, predictability can actually become a little boring.
Boring, really.
Yeah, if someone feels they know exactly what to expect from you all the time, that element of intrigue, it can fade. Surprises, though, especially when there's already attraction. They can lower defenses, create openings for new feelings.
Like a spontaneous plan or an unexpected text.
Exactly, those little things that break the routine. So the insight here is that occasional unpredictability can actually increase attraction, stops things getting complacent.
Okay, that makes sense. Keep them guessing a little, but you can't just be a total wild card all the time, right? That would be exhausting.
No, definitely not. That leads to the next stage, giving them space to fall. This involves a bit of a let's say, strategic step back.
Stepping back after you've drawn them in.
Yeah, once you sense they're quite interested, you create a little distance, just a touch. It actually encourages them to start pursuing you.
Ah, the classic push-pull.
Kind of. A touch of aloofness, maybe missing one call, but it's really important not to overdo it. You don't want to seem like you're outright rejecting them.
Delicate balance, then.
Very delicate. You want them to notice the slight withdrawal and let their own desire drive them to seek you out. Too much withdrawal, and they might just lose interest.
Right, it's like playing hard to get, but smarter, maybe. Not actually being unavailable or mean.
Exactly. And finally, we get to using physical lures. Sounds like we're moving beyond the mind games now.
Okay, physical lures, what does that mean?
It's about combining a relaxed, non-defensive attitude, which is calming. It lowers the other person's inhibitions with a really palpable sexual presence.
How do you do that?
It comes from within, really. Letting go of your own self-consciousness, your doubts, your anxieties about your body and sexuality. That confidence, that naturalness, it can be incredibly intoxicating.
Right.
Much more than any specific trick.
So it's about your own comfort level.
Yes. The source made an interesting point. Lots of people are okay with the idea of sex, but deeply uncomfortable with their own physical selves. If you can overcome that, it's a very powerful lure.
Okay, that's fascinating. So that's the art of drawing someone in. But what happens once that spark is there? Let's shift gears into sexual intelligence. Sounds like it's about more than just technique.
Oh, much more. You've hit the nail on the head. Sexual intelligence, as these sources define it, it's really about a set of internal resources.
Internal resources, like what?
Things that let you experience relaxation, presence, clear communication with a partner, responsiveness to touch, and creating both physical and emotional connection.
So not just the physical act.
Not at all. The key takeaway is that truly enjoyable sex goes way beyond just the mechanics. Sure, things like erections or lubrication can be part of pleasure, but they're almost secondary to this deeper sense of, like, emotional and physical nourishment you get from being sexually intelligent.
Okay, so it's the whole experience, not just aiming for orgasm. What does having high sexual intelligence actually let you do then?
Well, it allows for a much more authentic kind of sexual expression, where your sexuality really reflects who you are, or at least how you see yourself.
Authentic. How so?
It's a shift away from those, almost automatic, hormone-driven responses
Yeah.
towards making conscious choices about your sexual activity.
Just choices.
Yeah. And another really important thing is it lets you adapt sex to your own unique needs and desires, instead of feeling like you have to fit into some pre-made mold of what sex should be.
Right. Not trying to live up to some external standard.
Exactly. The source uses this fantastic analogy, trying to fix sexual dissatisfaction by just focusing on the physical stuff. It's like trying to teach a pig to sing.
Yeah.
You ultimately don't accomplish what you want, and it mostly just annoys the pig.
Huh. Okay, that's memorable.
Yeah.
So what are some of the key aspects of sexual intelligence we can actually work on?
There are several. The sources point out. One is being able to start being intimate without getting totally caught up worrying about function.
Like performance anxiety. Will I get aroused? Will they orgasm?
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Another is being able to enjoy erotic activity without constantly monitoring where is this going, or feeling pressured to hit some specific endpoint.
Just being in the moment.
Yes. And finally, it's about being able to focus on and communicate about the activities that you genuinely find pleasurable, not just trying to reach some arbitrary level of excitement. So it's about presence, enjoyment, connection.
Letting go of the pressure and just experiencing it. The sources also mentioned something called a hierarchy of sexual activities. What's that about?
Ah, yes. This refers to that really common, widespread societal belief that certain sexual acts are somehow superior or more real sex than others.
Like intercourse is the main event.
Often, yeah. Intercourse gets put right at the top. Then maybe other genital contact, like oral or anal sex. Then maybe masturbation, non-genital touch.
Where does kissing fit in?
Interestingly, kissing can land in really different places on this imaginary ladder depending on the person. And then you have things like commercial sex, internet sex, phone sex, various fetishes. They tend to get their own, often lower rungs.
But it's just a construct, right? Not inherently true.
Exactly. The core insight is that this hierarchy is largely social, not based on any inherent value.
So how does believing in this hierarchy actually affect our satisfaction? Does it matter?
The source argues it really can. It can devalue our experiences. You might enjoy something immensely, but dismiss it as just foreplay or not really sex.
Ah, I see. Minimizing pleasure.
Right. Or it can create conflict if you and a partner have different views on how important an activity is. Like, one finds a foot massage incredibly intimate, the other thinks it's pointless if it doesn't lead to intercourse.
Yeah, that could definitely cause friction.
And this hierarchy introduces ideas of success and failure into sex, which leads to feeling cheated or self-critical if an encounter doesn't reach that supposed top tier.
Like overvaluing intercourse.
Exactly. That can lead to overemphasizing orgasm and downplaying other really intimate acts, like mutual masturbation. So recognizing this hierarchy as artificial can really open up possibilities for more enjoyment and less pressure.
That's a really interesting point, how these ingrained ideas can actually limit pleasure and create stress we don't need. Okay, the sources then move on to some common misconceptions that hold back our sexual intelligence. Starting with the need for a perfect environment for sex. I can definitely relate to feeling like the mood has to be just right.
Oh, absolutely. We might have this ideal picture, right? Perfect partner, perfectly clean bodies, total privacy, and then feel like sex just isn't possible unless all those stars align.
Yeah, waiting for perfection.
The source uses this great analogy of Paris. Anyone can enjoy it with tons of money, great weather, fluent French. But the real trick is appreciating its charm even when those perfect conditions are missing.
So apply that to sex.
Right. As adults, our lives are complicated. Waiting for everything to be just right might mean very little intimacy. While preferences are normal, the key is to lean towards a yes, unless there's a major obstacle. An opt-in mentality, not opt-out.
Opt-in versus opt-out. I like that framing. Be more open to possibilities. And there's a specific note here for parents, which I'm sure many listeners will find relevant.
Yes, it highlights that if parents can't learn to enjoy intimacy with kids in the house, even if they're supposedly asleep, they might face years with very little connection.
Oof, that's a sobering thought.
It is. The source even humorously suggests developing different levels of sex with kids in-house scenarios. The core message is adapt to your reality. Don't wait for some unrealistic ideal of perfect privacy.
Good advice. Okay, another misconception. The need for spontaneity and non-communication. This feels counterintuitive because we hear so much about the romance of spontaneous sex.
The source challenges this pretty head-on. It argues that a lot of adult spontaneity actually comes from good planning and open communication.
Planning helps spontaneity. How?
Well, think about a spontaneous dinner out. Usually someone suggests it, checks for a table, agrees on a place.
Right. Yeah, true. It requires some coordination.
Same with sex. Talking about preferences, boundaries, even practical stuff like contraception. It doesn't kill the magic. It can actually facilitate a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
So don't think of planning as the enemy of spontaneity here.
Okay, so planning doesn't kill the mood. It can actually help create it.
Exactly. The source even explores why someone might crave that totally spontaneous, non-communicative sex.
Why would they?
It suggests it could be a way to avoid thinking too hard about the act, the consequences, the intimacy involved, or maybe a fear that if you do talk about it, it won't happen at all.
Avoiding vulnerability.
Could be. But the really important point is this approach often misses out on the best parts. Being fully present, having a partner who's also present, consciously directing things, and that much deeper connection from shared understanding.
Right, you're not just letting it happen to you, you're co-creating it. Okay, the last misconception mentioned is the idea that sex has inherent meaning. This sounds like a big one.
It is pretty fundamental. The source basically says sex in itself is meaningless until we give it meaning as individuals or partners.
Meaningless. That sounds bleak.
Not necessarily. It can be really empowering. It means you have agency in defining your own sexual experiences. But it can also lead to unnecessary pressure if we attach too much significance to every single encounter.
Like expecting every time to be earth-shattering or deeply bonding.
Exactly. The source lists common meanings. People often attach procreation, bonding, stress relief, even ethical behavior. And it gently challenges the idea that these are inherent truths about sex. So the meaning is something you create, not something automatically built in.
We're projecting our values onto it.
Precisely. And when those expectations aren't met, disappointment or anxiety can follow. Recognizing that meaning is created can free us from those rigid frameworks. So now we've busted some myths. How do we actually boost our sexual intelligence? The sources offer some practical ideas.
Okay, practical steps. One key thing seems to be really identifying our own personal needs for enjoying sex. It's definitely not one size fits all, is it?
Absolutely not. Understanding what makes you feel good, physically and emotionally, is crucial. Then it's about trying to align your conditions for sex with your values and the experiences you truly desire.
But don't be too rigid.
Right. The source warns against conditions so narrow they make satisfaction almost impossible. And it really emphasizes considering your partner's needs too, finding common ground where you both feel satisfied. It's self-awareness plus partner awareness.
Understanding yourself and your partner.
Yeah.
Got it. Another really interesting point is redefining sexy. I loved that story about the bullfighter and the frilly apron.
Uh-huh. Yes, the Don Jose anecdote. It brilliantly shows the power of perspective, doesn't it?
Mm.
This hyper-masculine figure basically saying, whatever I do is manly because I'm doing it.
So apply that to sexy.
Exactly. The takeaway is you have the power to decide what sexy means to you, in yourself and your partner. It doesn't have to fit those narrow traditional notions.
Like what kind of things?
The source gives great examples. Remembering exactly how your partner likes their hair touched. Thoughtfully bringing a snack to bed. Even just getting the lube ready proactively. Things that show care and attention.
So it shifts focus from just looks to thoughtful actions. I like that.
It looks beyond the superficial. Finally, the sources talk about communicating to create outcomes. This ties back to what we said about spontaneity, doesn't it?
It really does. How is communication framed here?
It's presented as a valuable technical skill, something you can learn and improve, not just some random romantic exchange.
A skill like learning an instrument.
Sort of. The source directly challenges the idea that not communicating is somehow more romantic. Compares it to choosing not to use an umbrella in the rain because getting wet feels more natural.
Huh. Okay.
Use a great cooking analogy. Imagine trying to cook with someone without precise words for ingredients and actions. Chaos.
A disaster.
Same with sex. Having a shared vocabulary for bodies, activities, your own experiences, it's essential for a satisfying partnership. So talking about what you want isn't clinical. It's a powerful way to enhance connection and pleasure.
Okay, so being open and clear isn't awkward, it's actually constructive. Let's move on now to the art of flirting and sex signals. This is where those initial sparks really play out subtly and not so subtly.
Right. And a key aspect of flirting, according to these sources, is mastering the art of insinuation, again, but in this context.
How does it apply to flirting?
It's about showing interest without being totally overt, without laying all your cards out immediately. It's kind of give and take, a playful push-pull dynamic.
Push-pull.
Yeah, you draw someone in with interest and playfully back off a little.
Great.
Creates tension. It's contrasted with the nice guy approach of just constant compliments and agreement.
Which doesn't work as well.
Surprisingly, maybe not.
Ugh.
That unlimited affection can get taken for granted. So creating a little intrigue rather than being instantly available can be more effective.
Okay, creating a bit of a challenge, keeping them slightly off balance.
Exactly. That unpredictability, that bit of mystery, makes you more intriguing. The sources also mention specific ways to build this tension.
Like what?
Things like mirroring female behavior, the idea that women often flirt even without real interest, or creating moments of high tension like leaning in close like you'll kiss, then playfully pulling back.
Ah, the near miss. That little sister example they used was interesting too, creating that almost forbidden vibe.
Yes, it's about playfully testing boundaries and expectations. Another tactic mentioned is creating different emotions.
Different emotions. How?
Again, using that push-pull, but emotionally. Show genuine interest, then create a little distance. It can actually prompt the other person to start pursuing you. So flirting is more complex than just saying, I like you.
It sounds like a bit of a game, but aimed at building that initial attraction. What's the key to doing it well?
The source really hammers home the importance of disengaging your own feelings and not looking for immediate sexual outcomes when you're just flirting.
Disengaging feelings. Why?
It projects security and confidence. They argue most people go for the kill too soon, reveal their hand too quickly. By holding back a bit, not reacting with overwhelming enthusiasm to every little hint, you seem different, more intriguing, secure enough that you don't need that instant validation.
Okay, project confidence by not seeming needy. Makes sense. Now, how do you actually read the signals people are sending? Let's talk specifically about flirting signs in women. What should we look for?
Well, according to the sources, one of the most obvious initial signs is just friendliness. If a woman's giving you a lot of attention, teasing playfully, asking questions about you, she probably has you on her radar.
Seems straightforward.
You'd think. But they say many men actually miss these more subtle cues. So the key is to pay attention and engage back. Don't be oblivious. Don't wait for giant, obvious signs, because women often aren't that overt. Body language is really key.
Okay, pay attention to the overall vibe. Beyond just general friendliness, what about more specific attraction signals in women, things that suggest deeper interest?
Several are mentioned. One is her complimenting you, especially after you've shared something or shown some status or skill.
Okay.
Another can be playful anger, or even a light hit after something you say it shows you've connected emotionally. Interestingly, being called a playboy,
That sounds bad.
it can seem negative, yeah, but sometimes it's actually a hidden sign of interest. Also, if she asks you to show or teach her something, she wants to spend more time, learn about you. And if she seems to be trying to get reactions out of you,
Testing you.
kind of,
Huh.
saying or doing things just to see how you'll respond. It's another common tactic. So don't always take things at face value. Look beneath the surface.
Interesting. Some of those could easily be missed or misinterpreted. What about more direct sexual signs in women, indicators they actually want to escalate physically?
These are usually more obvious signs of arousal, wanting physical contact like kissing or more. Often it's more intuitive, a feeling they want you to make a move.
But what are some concrete signs?
Okay, concrete signs could include appearing a bit jealous if you talk to others, moving physically closer, subtle touches, arm, shoulder, that kind of thing. Prolonged eye contact,
The eyes,
a
yeah.
change in breathing heavier or maybe more shallow,
Hmm.
stroking her own throat, playing with jewelry or hair suggestively, adjusting clothes to reveal a bit more skin strategically,
Right.
and that necking gesture, tilting or exposing the neck.
The neck exposure, right? That vulnerable signal. What others?
Let's see, licking her lips, swaying her hips more when walking, accidentally bumping into you, fixing her makeup or hair when you return after being away briefly, subtly caressing her own body, scrunching her shoulders, which can emphasize the chest, even subtle body twitching. Oh, and the classic, though often misinterpreted, two women whispering about you.
Wow, okay. It's a whole subtle language.
It really is. It's about being observant of a whole range of physical cues, even the small ones.
Fascinating. Okay, let's flip the script. Understanding sex signals and desire in men. How can you tell if a man desires you sexually beyond just, a general interest in sex?
The source suggests looking for a mix of verbal and nonverbal cues. A key sign is attentive listening, showing genuine interest in you. Complimenting your style, your appearance, that's pretty clear.
Okay.
Initiating physical contact, even seemingly innocent touches. Offering help, bringing up sexual topics in conversation, or suggesting romantic or sensual movies or music. That's usually a good clue he's thinking about you that way. It's about looking for a pattern of attention and escalating intimacy.
Those seem fairly clear. Any more subtle signs a man might be interested sexually?
Definitely. Things like wearing his favorite cologne when he knows he'll see you, making an effort with his appearance, haircut, clothes, suggesting dates at his place instead of out.
The home turf invitation.
Right. Even having a surprisingly neat bedroom if you do go over. Following you on social media, quick text replies, sending flirty messages, especially if he's shy in person. Maybe checking on your well-being before getting flirty. It's about noticing those little details and changes when he's around you.
Okay, paying attention to the effort. And what about the really direct, less ambiguous signs that a man's definitely feeling sexual attraction?
The source gives quite a list. Winking. Using cheesy introductions playfully. Being first to comment on your sexier photos. Lingering hugs.
The long hug, yes.
Rubbing something imaginary off your face. A hot first kiss. Offering his jacket even if it's not cold. Calling when drunk.
The drunk dial. Classic.
Dimming lights, lighting candles. Glancing at your lower back suggestively. Sending or asking for naughty pictures. Hand on the thigh, focusing intently on your lips when you talk.
Lip watching.
Deep in breath during kissing. Asking about birth control. Eyes brightening when he sees you. Suggesting removing clothes. Asking your underwear color. Narrating romantic dreams about you. Leading you straight to the bedroom.
Okay, getting pretty direct now.
Maybe bragging a bit about his skills. Really enjoying cuddling after intimacy. Preferring neck kisses. Buying you drinks often. Fixing his hair around you. Saying he's aroused just thinking about you. Preferring late-night texts. Giving a shoulder massage. Taking off his shirt when alone. And, well, visible physical arousal.
That last one's hard to miss.
Pretty much. It's a wide range. The key is looking for a cluster of these signs, not just one isolated thing.
It certainly is a comprehensive list. Seems like there's a whole language here, given and received. Okay, let's shift gears again. Talk about some differences in sexual desire and experience between men and women that the sources highlight.
Right. One of the first things is tackling some common misconceptions. Like, they present this surprising statistic from a clergy survey.
Georgie.
Yeah, it suggested a higher percentage of priests admitted to some sexual activity compared to nuns, which really challenges that stereotype of nuns being inherently more chaste. A good reminder to question assumptions.
Definitely unexpected. What other common beliefs get challenged?
Well, the idea that women's turn-ons are just inherently more complicated than men's. They cite Northwestern University research using erotic films.
Oh, yeah. What did they find?
They measured physiological responses, heart rate, skin conductance. Men's self-reported arousal tended to match their genital response fairly closely, like straight men reacted more to male-female and female-female scenes, gay men to male-male.
Okay, fairly specific.
But for women, it was more varied. Straight women reported being more turned on by male-female stuff, but their genital arousal showed roughly equal reactions to all three types of interaction shown.
Interesting. So body and mind not always perfectly aligned for women.
The research has suggested men might have more rigid arousal patterns, while women's can be more diffuse, influenced by more factors.
Yeah.
So what someone says turns them on versus what their body responds to might differ, especially for women.
That really fits with the idea we touched on women's desire often starting more between the ears, mentally, emotionally.
Exactly. The sources emphasize women often take a less direct route to satisfaction. Anticipation, emotional connection, the context, these can be huge drivers of desire for them. Women often want to talk, connect emotionally first.
Whereas men,
Men sometimes view the act of sex itself as a primary form of connection, a way to express intimacy. Understanding these different approaches can really help bridge potential gaps in a relationship.
so different pathways to intimacy potentially. What about the actual physical experience? Any notable differences mentioned? Like orgasm?
Yes, they do mention orgasm differences.
Sure.
On average, for hetero couples, men tend to ejaculate about 4 minutes after penetration starts. Women who orgasm during sex typically take around 10 to 11 minutes.
Quite a difference.
And there's a big difference in frequency, too. A much higher percentage of men in hetero relationships report always or almost always orgasming compared to women.
The infamous orgasm gap.
Right. And interestingly, there can even be a difference between how often male partners think their female partners orgasm versus what the women themselves report, which really underlines the need for open communication, not making assumptions.
Absolutely crucial. Okay, these are important distinctions. Communication seems key. Let's move on to actually communicating about sex specifically.
That
Dirty talk. Something that can feel awkward or taboo for many.
It definitely can, but the sources really stress the immense power words have in enhancing excitement. They even call the brain the most significant sex organ, highlighting that psychological aspect of arousal.
The brain is the biggest sex organ. I like that.
And the fundamental point is open, honest communication about sexual needs and desires is just crucial for a fulfilling sex life.
So why is dirty talk so effective then, even if it feels taboo initially?
Several reasons are given. First, it directly breaks those childhood taboos about dirty words and talking openly about sex. That act of rebellion can feel really brave, exciting.
The thrill of being naughty.
Kind of. Second, in private with a trusted partner, those wider cultural norms can just vanish temporarily. And finally, knowing you share this unique, maybe slightly scandalous communication with your partner creates a really strong intimacy.
A shared secret.
Exactly. The fact your partner sees and responds to a side of you maybe no one else does, that forges a special bond. It's about embracing that shared secret, the thrill of pushing boundaries together.
Okay, shared intimacy, breaking barriers. The sources also mention reframing the term dirty talk itself.
Yeah, suggesting it's not inherently negative. They even propose alternatives like underhanded talk to try and strip away some negative connotations. The core message is being open and uninhibited in communicating what you want sexually, even using language considered dirty elsewhere, is actually a really positive, essential part of a healthy sex life.
Okay. For listeners who find starting this daunting, what are some first steps? How do you ease in?
The sources admit starting is often the hardest part. They suggest easing in gradually. Maybe send a suggestive email after intimacy, expressing enjoyment of specific things, maybe using slightly more explicit language than usual.
Okay, email as a starting point.
Or start building fantasy scenarios using spoken words, maybe even during ordinary activities, just to create that anticipation and shared imaginative space. Test the waters in a low-pressure way.
Dip your toes in. What are the overall benefits of incorporating dirty talk?
Well, it's fantastic for foreplay and afterplay. For many women, that verbal buildup is crucial for creating anticipation, getting in the mood. Men also enjoy being teased, having excitement built with suggestive language.
Holds anticipation for both.
Yes, and that extended anticipation can lead to more intense orgasms for both. Then after sex, it's a wonderful way to express joy, appreciation, confirming fulfillment for men, reassuring women of their partner's warmth and satisfaction. It's a powerful tool at all stages.
The sources give specific examples. Can you share a few just to give an idea?
Sure. During foreplay, maybe something like, I can't wait to taste every inch of you. During intercourse, maybe, tell me how good this feels. Or more direct, like, I want to feel you deep inside me.
Okay.
And afterplay, a simple, I don't think anyone can make me come as hard as you do, can be incredibly powerful. The key is being present, being genuine, finding words that feel authentic to you and your desires.
Verbalizing those intense sensations. What about boundaries? That seems really important here.
Absolutely crucial. Establishing clear boundaries, having safe words or procedures is essential. Everyone needs to feel safe, comfortable.
How do you do that?
Have an open conversation. Which words or phrases are okay? Which are off limits? It's all about mutual respect, clear agreement. The source even suggests starting with dirty writing, like leaving a suggestive note, less immediately intimidating. Create a safe, mutually agreed upon space to experiment.
Writing first. That's a great tip. Gives you time to think, and dirty talk doesn't have to be filthy right away.
Exactly. You can start simply. Describing your partner's body, how much you appreciate it. You feel so strong. I love the way you look. Your touch makes me feel. Fantastic starting points. As comfort grows, you can gradually escalate the language, get more specific. It's a process.
Gradual exploration. What about using technology? Phone sex, sexting, becoming more common.
Yes, these are presented as really valuable ways to explore dirty talk, especially when apart. Sexting, sending dirty texts, is great for building tension, acting out fantasies remotely.
What kind of sexts?
They mention different types: base pics, chest-down shots, more exposed close-ups, even short videos, with the obvious caution about privacy, of course. They also give examples of transitioning from sexting to meeting up and how to do dirty talk during cybersex, keeping messages quick, focused, building climax. So digital tools can be a fun, exciting way to connect when apart.
Building anticipation even remotely, and they suggest making it a playful game. I like that.
Yeah, that takes pressure off, injects fun. You could agree to speak dirty for an evening. See how many suggestive remarks you can catch each other making. Embrace the playful side together. Don't take it too seriously. Enjoy exploring.
Okay, so we've covered the power of words. Now let's explore another way to add fun. Sex games and role play. Seems like a great way to break routine.
Absolutely. The sources introduce sex games as a way to revive passion, increase mutual excitement. Can be simple, like playful dice where the outcome dictates an act.
Like truth or dare, but sexier.
Kind of. Or more elaborate, like sensual hide-and-seek with intimate activities as rewards, card games with sexy prompts. It's about finding ways to introduce novelty, unpredictability.
Fantastic way to break a rut. The sources also discuss love complicity. What's that?
Love complicity.
Yeah.
It's described as being a really close, supportive team with your partner. Communicating openly, understanding each other deeply, even anticipating needs for true happiness. Feeling like you're on the same page, working together, supporting each other fundamentally.
Like being true partners.
Yes. And a lack of it can make the relationship fragile, maybe even make partners more susceptible to forming strong emotional connections outside the relationship. So building that foundation of mutual understanding and support is key.
Actively nurturing the partnership. How can couples promote this?
Several practical tips. Really open, honest communication. Consciously making time for shared activities you both enjoy. Finding a healthy balance between together time and individual pursuits. Traveling together, creating shared memories, actively engaging in each other's lives, building positive shared experiences.
Investing in the relationship makes sense. The sources also touch on common sex problems couples face and how addressing those can actually help the whole relationship.
Yes, they point out sexual difficulties can reflect underlying issues. But the flip side is, successfully resolving sex problems can have a positive ripple effect. It's harder to feel distant or angry with someone who's also a source of pleasure and intimacy.
Sex as a relationship glue.
Possibly. They even suggest that pleasure might be a primary evolutionary reason for sex in couples fostering bonding and teamwork, beyond just biology. So don't underestimate the power of a healthy sex life for the whole relationship.
The sources give a long list of questions couples can ask each other to explore desires and boundaries. Covers a lot.
It really does. Favorite positions, craziest experiences, fantasies, fetishes, and very importantly, clear limits. A fantastic starting point for those open conversations. They also mention intimacy techniques, mindful breathing together, active listening.
Ways to deepen connection.
Yes, and a really important point about shifting the foreplay mentality. viewing it as part of the whole day, the whole experience, not just the 5 minutes before intercourse.
Hmm.
This can be particularly significant for many women. Make intimacy a priority throughout the day.
Foreplay is an all-day thing. I like that.
Yeah.
What about introducing sex toys? Can be sensitive for some couples?
The sources stress open sharing, communication, reassurance. Toys aren't replacements for a partner, but tools to enhance pleasure, exploration, add variety. They debunk myths, reassure that toy use is common, doesn't mean anything's wrong, and mention different types, good for couples, encouraging shared exploration. Approach it with openness, adventure.
Okay. Then we get into adult games. In order of intensity. What's the progression?
Start simple. Regular games with innocent bets or forfeits. Then moves to explicitly sexy games for emotional bonding. Next level is sex games focused on curiosity, exploring erotic preferences. Finally, camera games, involving visual documentation. The idea is to gradually increase intimacy and playfulness based on mutual comfort.
Stepping outside the comfort zone together at your own pace. Finally, in this section, role play. This can really add a different dimension, can't it?
Absolutely. Roleplay is presented as fantastic for adding zest, fun, tapping into shared fantasies. The sources list tons of scenarios, costumes, classic tropes like corporate, police, to more imaginative ones like mysterious strangers, even gender play. Key is choosing scenarios that excite both partners.
Getting into character can feel awkward, though. Tips for making it less self-conscious.
Good point. One tip is starting with dirty talk within the scenario helps set the mood. Simple costumes, props can be surprisingly effective for immersion. Thinking about the character's communication style, mannerisms.
How would they talk and move?
Right. But maybe most importantly, embrace the fun. Don't take it too seriously. It's a chance to explore different sides of yourselves and the relationship safely and consensually.
Sounds like a great way to spice things up, explore desires playfully. Okay, final deep dive. BDSM, often misunderstood. Let's try to bring some clarity.
Right. BDSM is an umbrella term. Covers practices involving domination, submission, power exchange, often exploring pain and pleasure. Sources are very clear. Willing participation, enthusiastic consent are absolutely fundamental. It takes specific individuals with that inclination to engage willingly and safely.
Safety and consent seem absolutely paramount here.
They are. Consistent use of safe words agreed upon signals to stop anytime there's fear, pain, worry essential. Also important to know, people in BDSM come from all walks of life, all relationship structures, defying stereotypes, and it's often about the relational aspects, the psychological power exchange, not just the specific sex acts.
Given those dynamics, communication must be incredibly vital.
Arguably the single most crucial aspect. Open, honest talks about desires, limits, needs, sensitivities, allergies before any activity is non-negotiable. Mutual respect for boundaries, understanding limits can evolve also vital. Trust and deep intimacy form the bedrock for safe BDSM communication. Communication isn't just important, it's the foundation.
The sources mention a submissive mindset. What characterizes that?
Often described as centered on a desire for service, a natural focus on others' needs, especially a dominant partner. A true submissive, or slave, as sometimes termed in this context, often genuinely desires to serve, obey, please their master or dom. They might find comfort, even liberation, in willingly granting authority over aspects of their life to their partner. For some, submission is a source of pleasure, fulfillment.
And the master or dom role, not just about giving orders, I assume.
Absolutely not. A responsible, ethical dominant embodies kindness, consideration for the submissive's well-being, strong ethics, a willingness to learn and grow. They hold significant responsibility for their sub's physical and emotional safety. The sources even discuss slave role training, developing that deep sense of belonging to the master, willingly accepting some powerlessness regarding the master's choices, sometimes even re-socialization to align more with the master's specific desires and social needs.
They also mention impotence in slave training. That sounds jarring.
In this very specific BDSM training context, impotence means the slave's inability to act against the master's desires or commands. It's the willing surrender of their own will in agreed areas, embracing obedience within their dynamic. Important to understand it's a specific term here, not about sexual dysfunction.
Okay, context is key. And punishments can sometimes be part of these dynamics.
Yes, punishment can be part, but typically to correct perceived negative behavior or failing agreed expectations. Crucial that expectations and consequences are discussed, agreed on beforehand. Punishment should deter but never be abusive, always proportionate. Goal is discouraging unwanted behavior, not lasting harm. Open communication before and after is essential for trust and safety. Punishment is a negotiated tool, not abuse.
The sources reiterate role play is popular within BDSM scenarios, too. They often overlap.
They often do. BDSM frequently involves acting out scenarios with domination, submission, power exchange, exploring boundaries. The sources stress these roles are a conscious act, a consensual merge of reality and fantasy. Pain-pleasure agreed beforehand. Open dialogue after is vital to discuss enjoyment. What didn't work, ensure ongoing consent and well-being. Recognize the performance element and debrief.
Finally, the sources discuss ethical principles for BDSM, suggesting maybe safe, sane, consensual isn't always enough.
That's right. While SSC and the more nuanced RAC, risk-aware consensual kink, are common guides, sources suggest they might not be fully comprehensive ethically. They raise complexities around defining consent, its ongoing renewal, potential for harm even if technically consensual.
So what's proposed instead?
The primary ethical principle suggested is simple. First, do no harm to yourself or your partner. Emphasizes aiming for positive outcomes for everyone, being willing to adjust based on new information experiences. It's a call to think critically, go beyond slogans when considering BDSM ethics.
That's a powerful perspective, highlighting ongoing ethical awareness. Well, we have certainly covered a vast and fascinating landscape today. From those first subtle signals right through to intricate relationship dynamics and BDSM.
We truly have, and we really hope this deep dive has given you, our listeners, some diverse perspectives, some thought-provoking insights into your own preferences, maybe the unspoken communication in your relationships, and the incredible potential for deeper sexual understanding and connection.
Absolutely. And remember, this is really just a starting point. We encourage you to reflect on what resonated today and keep exploring these fascinating topics yourself. Maybe consider just one small step you could take: enhance communication, introduce more playfulness. Thanks so much for diving deep with us today.